Buongiorno. So our research is concerned with aspects of social communication and bonding in autistic individuals. We investigated specific aspects in autistic children by looking at the occurrence of two well-established social phenomena, the first being yawn contagion and the second cradling bias. So human beings are social beings who interact and communicate with others on a daily basis. Social skills and the ability to empathize are important as they facilitate the formation of social bonds. Now, as we know, a particular problem or problematic area for autistic individuals was described from early on, initially described by Kanner in 1943. These individuals have come into the world with an innate inability to form the usually biologically provided affective contact with other people. So our research was particularly concerned or particularly interested in the core deficits pervading all autistic spectrum disorders: ineffective social and communication skills and deficits in empathy. So as we've heard earlier this morning, what exactly the term empathy encompasses is a subject of ongoing debate. Just specifically for our study, what's important is that the phenomena under investigation are argued to be facilitated by the capacity for empathy. So yawn contagion refers to the ability or the human tendency to catch a perceived yawn in another person. And cradling bias refers to the side which you prefer to cradle an infant to when soothing it or putting it to sleep. So which visual hemispace the infant's face will lie when trying to put it to sleep. Across all cultures, a strong leftward bias is present. One that cannot be explained by handedness, however intuitive this might seem. So roughly 75% of females cradle to the left, and although this bias is less pronounced in males, it's still evident in males. So although the underlying mechanisms of both of these phenomena are not really well or fully understood, both of them are found in some primates, which suggest that the phenomena tap into a more basic aspect of empathy, something preceding higher order abilities such as, for example, theory of mind or executive function, an aspect such as how we relate to another person. So it's established that the visual cue for catching a yawn is the eyes. So in a sense, this has got to do with an outer facilitator of communication, social communication via eye contact. A various theories have tried to explain why leftward cradling bias occurs. One which we agree with is that leftward cradling bias is associated with a more optimal mother-infant attachment and bond, so relating on a more emotional level. So based on this, we predicted reduced yawn contagion as well as reduced cradling bias in autistic individuals. So we used a very simple design. We investigated cradling bias and yawn contagion in 20 typically developing and 20 ASD participants, aged 5 to 15 years and 7 to 15 years respectively. For the yawn contagion task, participants were asked to watch a video containing open mouth movement and yawn mouth movements. And for the cradling bias task, participants were asked to pretend to hold an infant that they were trying to put to sleep or soothe. And this was done on 3 separate occasions. And as predicted, our results show reduced yawn contagion in the ASD participants, and actually an absence of cradling bias in our ASD participants. Our typically developing participants were 7.6 times more likely to cradle to the left than our ASD participants were. Performance, IQ, and executive function did not seem to be influencing these phenomena in any significant way. So a theory which has recently emerged is that ASD is an attentional disorder. These individuals, however, can attend. This was seen in our ASD participants would often imitate the faces on the video, or they'd ask us, why is the person tired, or why is the person yawning? So they were receiving the input, they were just not responding in the same way that our typically developing participants were. So maybe a more valid argument would be, as mentioned yesterday, that it's not a global attention deficit that they have, but rather inattention to social cues that might be the culprit here. So in light of the current theory that leftward cradling bias is associated with a more optimal mother-infant attachment and bond, the findings suggest that The underlying mechanism of cradling bias is impaired in ASD, and observations made support this notion, as our ASD participants would often hold the doll at an arm's length, or when they hold the doll against their chest, they wouldn't look at the doll's face, which is in contrast to what our typically developing participants did, where they immediately held it in the correct position and actually looked at the face. So in summary, much emphasis in research has been placed on the high-order functions rather than the more basic aspects of empathy, which are arguably at play here. These phenomena we looked at provide us with a means to look more directly and investigate more directly the basic empathic processes that may be impaired in autistic individuals, as much research suggests. Research is obviously in its infant stages, and further investigation could assist us in gaining a clearer understanding of the social and emotional deficits in autistic individuals. Thank you.